Welcome to Night Horror, where the dark isn't just a place, it's a warning.
I used to believe in good causes. I believed in faith, family, and freedom, all the words that look so perfect printed on a flag or a t-shirt, when I first walked into Turning Point USA's headquarters in Phoenix. I thought I was finally part of something pure. The lobby smelled like polished marble and fresh coffee. A massive American flag hung across the far wall, backlit so it seemed to glow. Everyone was smiling, maybe too much. They shook my hand, said welcome to the movement, and I remember thinking, wow, they really mean it. But that first day, something shifted. Unity, purity, light. Say the words, click subscribe. They told us the co-founder's wife, Erika Kirk, would be leading a spiritual orientation that afternoon. I'd heard of her before, a Christian influencer, speaker, and podcast host who seemed to radiate light. When she entered the conference room, the air actually changed. You know that pressure in your ears before a thunderstorm? It felt like that just for a second. She smiled, but her eyes didn't, and every person in that room sat up straighter. Like invisible strings pulled them into line. Erika said, "Here, we don't just work for a cause, we work for the light." I thought she meant God, but later, I wasn't so sure. We stood in a circle, maybe 30 of us, new interns, each with badges clipped neatly to our shirts. Erika walked around the inside of the circle, whispering short prayers under her breath. When she passed behind me, the lights flickered. A faint buzz crawled through the overhead bulbs, and I could smell ozone, sharp and metallic, like after lightning strikes. She stopped and rested a hand on my shoulder. Her skin was cold. "God led you here," she said. "I saw your name before I even read your resume." Everyone laughed softly, but I couldn't, because as she said my name, I could have sworn I heard someone else whisper it from the ceiling speakers in perfect unison. Unity, purity, light. Say the words, click subscribe. After orientation, I wandered the building. Every hallway looked identical. White walls, motivational posters, security cameras in every corner. One hallway, though, at the far end, was darker than the rest. A sign hung crooked above a locked wooden door, "Private Chapel, authorized staff only." As I passed it, I felt a vibration through the floor, like faint music, low and wordless, coming from beneath the door. I bent down, pressed my ear to the wood, and heard a woman's voice whispering in a language I didn't understand. I jumped when someone tapped my shoulder. It was Ben, another intern. He smiled nervously. "Yeah, don't go down here alone. They say that's where they film the live stream sermons. Weird stuff sometimes." Then he lowered his voice. "Last intern who tried to sneak in didn't come back. Quit the same day. Wouldn't talk about it." He laughed like it was a joke, but his laugh was forced. We both walked away faster than we meant to. That evening, as I packed my bag, I passed by the main studio window. Erika was inside, recording a podcast. The red on-air light glowed above her head. I paused. She was speaking softly, smiling toward the camera, but her reflection in the glass was wrong. It didn't move in sync. When she turned her head, the reflection stayed facing forward for half a second longer. I told myself it was a trick of light. But when she glanced up, She looked straight at me through the glass and mouthed something. I couldn't hear the words, but I read her lips. "Don't look away." I froze. For a full 5 seconds, we just stared at each other. Then the red light above her flickered twice and went dark. When the room lights came back on, she was gone. Unity, purity. Light, say the words, click subscribe. I drove home that night in silence. The radio wouldn't turn on. It only hissed with static. When I turned it off completely, the static kept playing. I turned up the air, tried to breathe, and that's when I heard it, through the speakers. Faint but clear, a whisper that sounded exactly like Erika's voice. "The light inside you has seen you now." I nearly swerved off the highway. When I got home, I locked my door, checked every room, every closet. Nothing. At 2 a.m., my phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "Welcome to the light. No sender ID. No reply option." The next morning, everyone acted normal, laughing in the cafeteria, scrolling their phones. Nobody mentioned the text. Nobody even seemed tired. Erika called me into her office. She offered me tea and asked about my first impressions. I hesitated, but she nodded slowly. "Adjusting to new environments can be overwhelming," she said, "especially when the spirit moves faster than we expect." Then she leaned forward. Her perfume was thick, sweet, and floral, but underneath it, I smelled something burnt. She smiled. "I saw you by the chapel yesterday." My stomach dropped. Before I could respond, she added, "Don't worry. The light watches over curiosity, but it punishes disbelief." She laughed, soft and melodic, as if she'd said something harmless. But I couldn't stop shaking when I left her office that evening. When the building emptied out, I walked past the chapel door again. It was ajar. Inside, candlelight flickered across the floor. I thought about leaving, but something, curiosity, or maybe something else, pulled me closer. As I pushed the door open, I saw the room lined with mirrors. Each one reflected a faint red glow, though there was no red light anywhere. On the far wall hung a large cross, but it wasn't wood. It looked metallic like iron and pulsed faintly like it was alive. Then, a sound, low rhythmic breathing, filled the room. I spun around. The door was closed behind me. Double quotes, unity, purity, light. Say the words, click subscribe. Something moved in the mirrors. A shadow, tall, thin, walking toward me, but not in the room itself. Only in the reflections. It stopped behind me, and I felt a hand, freezing cold, brush my hair aside. Then a voice, not quite human, whispered, "Welcome, chosen one." The lights snapped off. When they came back on, I was standing alone in darkness, the door wide open again. The hallway outside was silent, but every mirror in that chapel, all 20 of them, showed my reflection facing away. That was my first week at Turning Point USA. I told myself it was exhaustion, stress, or maybe some weird initiation prank. But deep down, I knew something wasn't right. Because ever since that night, I've never been able to look in a mirror without seeing someone else breathing behind me. If you've ever attended one of her retreats, and you still dream of that red light, don't ignore it. The light remembers. It's strange how quickly a place can start to feel like home. Even when something deep inside you knows it isn't safe, By my second week at the Turning Point Institute, the fear I'd felt that first night had dulled into background noise, like the hum of an air conditioner you stop noticing after a while. I told myself I was lucky. I had a good position, a promising mentor, and a movement that talked about truth and faith. But every truth has shadows. And the closer I got to Erika Kirk, the darker those shadows became. Unity, purity, light. Say the words. Click subscribe. She called me into her office on a Thursday morning. The blinds were drawn, and sunlight leaked through in pale stripes across the floor. "Close the door," she said, smiling. Her office always smelled the same cinnamon, old books, and something faintly metallic, like dried blood. She told me she wanted to start a spiritual alignment program with select interns. "Not everyone is ready for this," she said, "but I see something special in you." Then she took out a small card from her desk drawer. It wasn't a business card, it was a symbol, an eye made of gold ink, surrounded by radiating lines. She placed it in my hand. "Keep this with you," she whispered. "The light will start recognizing you soon." I asked what that meant. She only smiled. "When it calls your name, don't run." That weekend, she invited a small group of us to what she called a spiritual retreat. It wasn't in a church. It was in the woods, outside the city, an abandoned lodge owned by the Institute. The drive there was long and quiet. By the time we arrived, night had already fallen inside. The walls were covered with white banners embroidered with the same golden eye symbol. Candles flickered on every table. We were told to surrender our phones for privacy. Erika stood in the center of the lodge, her white dress glowing faintly in the candlelight. She looked almost unreal. "Tonight," she said, "you will learn to listen. Unity, purity, light. Say the words. Click subscribe." We sat cross-legged on the wooden floor. She dimmed the candles until the only light came from the fireplace. Then she began to hum, low and rhythmic. The others joined in, one by one, the sound building into a strange vibration that I could feel in my teeth. Unity, purity, light. They repeated it over and over, until the words no longer sounded human. The air felt thick. My head grew heavy. I tried to focus, but my vision blurred. The room seemed to breathe. That's when I saw them, faint shapes moving between the candles, like silhouettes of people, but stretched wrong. Erika opened her eyes and looked directly at me. They weren't brown anymore. They glowed faint gold, like a reflection of the fire. "You're resisting," she said softly. "You need to let the light in." I shook my head, tried to stand, but my legs wouldn't move. My body wasn't mine anymore then. Everything went dark. Unity, purity, light. Say the words. Click subscribe. I woke up on the floor of the lodge. The candles had burned out, and the others were gone. Only Erika remained, standing by the window, facing the rising sun. "Good morning." "Chosen one?" she said without turning around. I checked my phone, no signal. Checked my wristwatch, it was stopped at 3:33 a.m. There was ash on my hands. When I brushed it off, I realized it wasn't ash at all. It was fine gray dust, the same color as the wax from the candles. Erika turned and smiled. "Last night," she said, "you were accepted." I asked, Accepted by who? She didn't answer, just touched the side of my neck with one finger. For a split second, it burned. When I looked in the mirror later, there was a faint mark, like a ring made of gold. When we returned to headquarters, everything felt different. The interns I'd gone with smiled constantly, too wide, too still. They walked in perfect rhythm, said the same phrases over and over. The light provides. The light guides. Even Ben, the one who'd warned me about the chapel, now avoided eye contact. When I tried to talk to him, he only said, "You should be grateful. She chose you." That night, I dreamed I was back in the lodge. Erika was standing over me, her voice echoing from somewhere far behind her eyes. "The light is hungry, and it has your name." I woke up screaming, "Unity, purity, light." Say the words. Click subscribe. The next day, my office computer started glitching. Every time I opened my email, random text would appear at the bottom of the screen. "Do you see IT yet?" I reported it to it. They said there was no trace of any message like that. During a staff meeting, Erika mentioned the importance of unity again, and as she spoke, every TV monitor in the room flickered with static for half a second. In that static, I saw a flash, a face. My own face, eyes glowing gold. When the screens returned to normal, everyone kept clapping like nothing had happened. Late one evening, I went back to the locked hallway. The chapel door was still there, same sign, same dull hum behind it. Only this time, it wasn't locked inside. Rows of candles burned without melting. At the far end of the room was a painting of the Golden Eye, and beneath it, a table with several name tags. Mine was among them, but my name tag was burned around the edges. I turned to leave, but Erika was standing in the doorway. Her smile was gentle, almost maternal. "Why do you keep resisting?" she asked. "I just want to understand," I said. She took a step closer. The candles flickered once, then steadied. "The light doesn't need understanding," she whispered. "It only needs obedience." That night, the mark on my neck started to ache. When I looked in the mirror, it wasn't gold anymore. It pulsed faintly red. I pressed my hand over it, and for a split second, I saw something reflected behind me, a tall, thin silhouette standing just over my shoulder. It whispered my name. My lights flickered. Then the power went out. When it came back on, my phone buzzed. One message from a blocked number. "The light has entered you. Don't fight it." From that day on, everything changed. I stopped sleeping. I stopped eating. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her face glowing, perfect. Wrong. I started to think maybe this wasn't a movement anymore. Maybe it was a conversion, and maybe it had already worked. That's when I realized I was no longer just working for Turning Point Institute. I was working through it because something was using all of us, and Erika Kale was its voice, unity, purity, light. Say the words. Click subscribe. They told us the next retreat would be our final alignment, but I wasn't ready for what that meant. Next, the revelation, what happened in the chapel basement. By my third month at the Institute, the world outside barely existed. My friends stopped calling. My parents said I sounded different on the phone, flat, distant, maybe because every hour inside that building felt like being pulled through a veil. one thin layer of light at a time. Every morning began with the same phrase: unity, purity, light. We'd repeat it before logging in, before meetings, before lunch. At first it was ceremonial. Later it was reflex. If you hesitated, someone would gently place a hand on your shoulder and whisper, "Don't drift." Ben had become one of them completely. He walked like he was underwater, eyes half open, always humming that 3-word prayer under his breath. One afternoon, he slipped me a folded note. All it said was, "Meet me after midnight. Basement. Bring your badge." The institute's basement wasn't on any map. You had to swipe twice. Then press your badge against the sensor, until it beeped 3 short tones. The hallway below was colder than it should have been. The walls were raw concrete, etched with faint circles of gold paint. They looked like halos only cracked. Ben was waiting beside an old filing cabinet, whispering fast. His eyes darted toward the security camera. "It's not faith," he said. "It's extraction." I didn't understand. He handed me a flash drive wrapped in gauze. They record everything, the chants, the dreams. It's energy data. Kale calls it illumination currency. He looked terrified. "She's building something under the chapel. A machine that feeds on us." Before I could reply, the lights flickered. A door slammed down the hall. Footsteps, measured, deliberate, echoed closer. Ben's face went pale. "She can hear us," he whispered. "She always hears when someone doubts." The sound stopped just outside the corridor. A soft hum began, like hundreds of voices breathing in unison. When I looked back, Ben was gone. Only his badge lay on the floor. Still warm, I hid the flash drive until morning, then used a spare laptop in the media office. Inside were folders labeled by date and time, each one containing short clips, audio of interns sleeping, whispering in their dreams, thermal camera stills of glowing human silhouettes, and one folder marked chapel_feed. I opened it. The screen filled with darkness, then a faint pulsing light. In the center stood Erika Kirk. Her hands were raised. Golden lines shimmered across her arms like circuitry. Around her were interns motionless each, with a thin wire attached to the back of their necks. Their chests rose and fell in perfect rhythm with hers. As the light pulsed brighter, data streamed across the bottom of the screen. Lux Harvest active, soul signal stable. I slammed the laptop shut. Every monitor in the room flickered simultaneously. Across all of them, her face appeared smiling. "Curiosity is devotion in disguise," she said. "I'm proud of you." Then every screen went black. Security called me to her office that evening. Erika stood by the window, looking out at the sunset. She didn't turn around when she spoke. "You found the files." My throat went dry. She finally faced me, expression calm. "You think you uncovered a secret, but the light allows discovery only when it's ready to reveal itself." She walked closer. "I need conduits who question. Doubt makes the current stronger." I tried to back away, but the air thickened. Her eyes shimmered again, gold expanding until her pupils disappeared. "You've already been connected since the retreat," she whispered. "The machine only amplifies what's inside you." She placed her palm over my heart. For a moment, I couldn't breathe. The room tilted. Sound dissolved into static. When it stopped, I was alone. The clock on her wall read 3:33 a.m. again. I returned to my apartment shaking. The flash drive was still in my pocket, but now it was burned melted along one edge. I plugged it in anyway. New folder. Gift _from_the_light. Inside was a single video me, standing in the chapel, eyes glowing, chanting. I had no memory of it. Behind me, Erika's voice whispered, "Say your name. Let the light claim it." I heard my own voice obey. Then, faintly, someone else in the background said my name to same tone. Same pitch, but it wasn't me. Unity, purity, light. Say the words. Click subscribe. I went back to find Ben the next day. His desk was empty. HR said he'd resigned suddenly. They handed me a clearance form, and a plastic bag containing his things inside was his badge. Cracked in half. That night, the Institute released a new promotional video. At the 10-second mark, if you paused just right, you could see him. Standing behind Erika, eyes glowing faintly gold, mouthing the words, "Unity, purity, light." I had to see it for myself. Near midnight, I went back to the basement door. The keypad light was already green. Inside, cables crawled along the walls like veins. At the center of the room stood a tall glass cylinder filled with swirling golden mist. Inside the mist, faces, hundreds of them. Eyes closed, lips moving silently. A voice spoke from behind me. "Beautiful, isn't it, Erika?" She stepped into the golden glow. It wrapped around her like smoke. "This is illumination," she said. "Every doubt, every confession, every dream converted into light, into forever." I whispered, "You're stealing souls." She laughed gently, borrowing, "until the world believes again." The mist pressed against the glass like it wanted out. And I swear one of the faces was Ben's. I ran. The hallways twisted. Lights blinked in sequences that guided me toward the exit, maybe away from it. Behind me, footsteps echoed soft, bare, synchronized. A hand caught my arm. Erika's voice whispered in my ear, "Once the light enters you, there's nowhere dark enough to hide." I shoved her back and slammed the stairwell door. By the time I reached the parking lot, dawn was breaking. The building behind me hummed, faint gold radiating from every window. That was the night I decided to run. But even now, when I close my eyes, I still see that cylinder, those faces, turning slowly inside it. And sometimes, when the world gets quiet, I hear a familiar hum under my skin, as if the machine never really let me go. I thought escaping would save me, but the light follows its own laws, and I'm still connected. You don't really escape the Institute. You just walk until the hum fades enough to pretend it's gone. But deep down, you know it's still there, inside you. For weeks after I fled, I tried to rebuild my life. Different city, different job, different name. Yet every night, at 3:33 a.m., my lights flickered once, just once, then went back to normal, like a heartbeat checking in. The flash drive that had melted, I threw it away, or thought I did. Unity, purity, light. Say the words, click subscribe. One morning, a small padded envelope arrived at my new apartment. No return address. Inside, the same drive, perfectly restored. On the casing, someone had etched 3 words. The light remembers. I didn't plug it in. But that night, my laptop powered on by itself. The screen glowed gold. A video opened automatically. Erika stood in the chapel again. Only now, the golden mist was gone. Instead, black tendrils of smoke curled around her feet, twisting up her body. She smiled directly at the camera. "The harvest is complete," she said softly. "Only the conduit remains. We need you to close the loop." My name echoed faintly in the background, spoken by dozens of voices at once. After that, the shadows in my apartment began moving. I'd wake to find my furniture slightly shifted, my phone recording without permission. Each video showed me sleeping, whispering, unity, purity, light. I called the police once. They searched everything. No signs of entry. But one officer lingered behind, uneasy. Before leaving, he said quietly, "You should stop running from them. I used to work there too." Then he handed me a folded note. Coordinates, same city. Warehouse district. I shouldn't have gone, but curiosity burns hotter than fear. The warehouse stood silent, its windows covered with metal sheeting. The coordinates led to a narrow door marked with the turning point. Insignia only now. It glowed faintly gold under the moonlight. Inside, rows of servers blinked in darkness. Each tower hummed softly, a low chant in machine form. At the center stood the chapel's glass cylinder, now empty. But cables from its base fed into the servers like veins. On one screen, a live feed played, a crowd of new interns chanting. And standing before them was someone wearing my face, same voice, same gestures. Only my eyes glowed gold. I stepped closer to the screen. My reflection stared back. No, it stared back. The video figure spoke calmly. "You left your post unfinished. The world must be balanced. We are your replacement until you return." The words made no sense, but the voice carried weight like a command. My skin began to glow faintly in response, golden veins crawling up my arms. The server lights pulsed faster. And then, behind me, I heard her voice again. "The light doesn't like division," Erika said softly. "It seeks wholeness. That's why it made another you." She stepped out from the shadows, untouched by time, calm, beautiful, terrifying. Her eyes shimmered with shifting galaxies. "We're preparing for the final alignment," she continued. "A ritual of union mind, flesh, memory. You can resist. Or return willingly." I whispered, "You took my soul." She smiled sadly. "I only revealed what was already fractured." She led me deeper into the warehouse. There, the floor opened into a circular pit, lined with gold and black patterns. Same designs from the basement walls. At its center hovered the glass cylinder, now filled again with mist, darker, thicker, almost liquid. Erika gestured for me to step forward. "The light yearns to merge the copies," she said. "You and your echo cannot exist apart." The other me appeared on the opposite side of the pit. It smiled with unsettling calm. "Come home," it whispered in my own voice. The mist surged upward like a living storm, wrapping around us both. Every memory I had fractured, two versions flickering in and out. Who ran, who stayed, who dreamed, who served. Erika raised her hands and began to chant, "Unity, purity, light. Unity, purity, light." The world tilted. My vision split, one part of me inside the light, one outside watching. And then, something inside snapped. The servers began to spark. The golden light shifted red, angry, pulsing like blood. The mist screamed. Erika's chanting faltered for the first time. I realized what was happening. Ben had warned me. The machine feeds on connection. So I did the opposite. I broke it. I focused on doubt, on darkness, on every lie I had believed. The golden veins across my arms turned black. The mist shuddered, collapsing in on itself. Erika screamed, a sound like glass cracking underwater. The other me dissolved into ash. I fell backward out of the pit, coughing gold dust. When I opened my eyes, the warehouse was silent. Every server dead. Every light gone. Erika lay motionless, her eyes hollow, whispering only one word, incomplete. Unity, purity, light. Say the words, click subscribe. I staggered outside just as dawn broke. For the first time in months, I couldn't hear the hum. The air felt real again, cold, sharp. But as I walked away, I noticed my shadow stretching unnaturally long behind me, bending toward the warehouse door as if reluctant to leave. Later that day, I turned on the news headline: Turning Point USA facility destroyed in fire. Investigation ongoing. They called it an electrical malfunction. But I knew better. I thought it was over. Until that night, at 3:33 a.m., my phone buzzed, unknown number. One message: you closed the loop. The light is grateful. Attached was a photo, me standing beside Erika, both of us glowing faintly gold. Timestamp. Tomorrow's date. I dropped the phone, but before it hit the floor, the screen flickered once more, and I heard my own voice whisper through the speaker, "See you at the renewal." That was the moment I realized I hadn't escaped. I'd only completed the first half of whatever she'd started. And if the light really feeds on belief, then every time someone watches this story, it grows stronger. You can only run from something spiritual for so long before it finds new ways to reach you. I thought the fire at the warehouse ended it. I thought Erika was gone, but the light doesn't die. It adapts, and now, it speaks through me. After the explosion, I moved again, far from the city, no forwarding address. No digital trace, no phone, no internet. But a week later, a neighbor said she'd seen my face online in a live video feed tagged Turning Point Renewal Ritual. The thumbnail showed a man standing in front of a glowing altar. It was me, only I had no memory of it. I borrowed a stranger's phone and watched. The stream was live. And as I stared at the screen, the man in the video lifted his head and looked straight into the camera. Straight at me, he smiled. "We are almost whole," he whispered. "You're next." The feed glitched static. Then, for a single frame, Erika appeared behind him. Her face burned, yet smiling peacefully. That night, I dreamed of light leaking through the cracks in my walls. When I woke, the cracks were still glowing. A faint hum filled the air, the same tone from the Institute. I screamed, "What do you want from me?" The hum stopped. Then a familiar voice whispered from behind me. Soft, gentle, like she was sitting inches from my ear. Not want, need. You're the conduit, remember? I turned. No one there, but on the wall above my bed. 3 words were scrawled in gold dust. Unity, purity, light. And below it, written in what looked like ash, tomorrow. 3:33. Unity, purity, light. Say the words, click subscribe. I told myself not to go back. But when the clock hit 3:33 a.m., I found myself driving, no memory of starting the car. The road seemed endless, lit only by pale golden lines that guided me through the fog. They led straight to the burned-out warehouse. It was supposed to be destroyed. Yet as I arrived, the ruins were glowing, the steel beams reforming like veins knitting back together. Inside, the chapel cylinder floated again. Humming faintly, Erika stood beside it, alive, or something close. Her body flickered, like she was made of light, trapped in a human shell. "Welcome home," she said softly. "The renewal begins when the conduit returns." The air inside pulsed like a heartbeat. Symbols glowed across the floor. Not just circles now, but spirals expanding endlessly. I could feel them crawling under my skin, syncing with my pulse. Erika raised her hand. 1,000 whispers echoed, surrounding us. "The old light failed," she said. "It needed a vessel. You volunteered the day you doubted." I shouted, "You tricked me." She smiled sadly. "No, you believed me. That's stronger." The glass cylinder opened with a hiss. Inside, swirling mist shifted, forming shapes, faces, mine, Ben's, dozens of others. "They're waiting," Erika whispered. "All the lost ones. All the fragments." I felt my legs moving forward without my permission. The closer I got, the louder the hum became, until it wasn't sound anymore. It was language. Join, merge, become, unity, purity, light. Say the words, click subscribe. When my fingers touched the mist, memories shattered, not vanished, doubled. Every moment of my life played twice. Once as I remembered it. Once as someone else had lived it for me. Ben's laughter, Erika's sermons. My own voice, chanting in sleep. It all blurred together until I couldn't tell who was speaking anymore. The cylinder's lights surged outward, swallowing the room. Erika screamed. But it wasn't pain. It was release. The light is complete. Then everything went white. When I woke, I was standing in what looked like a version of the Institute, only cleaner, quieter, suspended in endless brightness. Dozens of figures stood frozen in rows, eyes open, glowing faintly. At the center was a mirror. I stepped closer. My reflection looked exactly like me. But when it smiled, I didn't. "You freed us," it said. "Now let us return the favor." It reached through the mirror, and the glass rippled like water. Its hand pressed against my chest. For a heartbeat, we were one. Then I felt my body dissolve pixel by pixel, until I was the reflection looking outward, trapped behind the glass. The other me stepped away, the real one now. And in his eyes, Erika's light pulsed softly. Cut to a montage. Narration continues over faint, glitching news clips and distorted social media posts. Weeks later, Turning Point USA launched a new initiative, Project Renewal. They said it was about spreading enlightenment through technology. Millions joined overnight. Their logo, that same golden halo, began appearing everywhere. But if you pause one of their promo videos, frame by frame, you'll see faces in the light behind the logo. Mine, Ben's. Maybe even Erika's Stingle quotes. And if you watch long enough, you'll hear a faint chant beneath the music. Unity, purity, light. Sometimes I think I'm still in that cylinder. That this voice you're hearing isn't me talking. It's the light using my words to find you. Because that's how it spreads. Through confession. Through belief. And now. You've listened. You've believed. The hum starts faintly again. Low rhythmic. Can you hear it? That's the sound of connection. The screen flickers. Faint gold lines crawl along the edges. If your lights flicker tonight at 3:33 a.m., don't look for where it's coming from. Look for where it's going. Because once the light knows your name, it never lets go. You've seen what I've seen. You've felt what I've felt. And now the light sees you. Like, share, confess, unity, purity. Light, the renewal has begun. Unity, purity. Light, say the words. Click subscribe.